Hey collectors, welcome to Star Wars Collected. I'm Jonathan. If you're new here, I hope you consider sticking around and subscribing. But if you've been here before, I want you to hit that like button like a scout trooper hitting the side of an indoor tree, because what I have for you guys today is the Hasbro Black Series Scout Trooper helmet. This has been much anticipated, been on my list for a long time. However, I do have my reservations about it. Let's open it up, take a look. The first Hasbro Black Series helmet came out with Kylo Ren when The Force Awakens was coming out. Very exciting type of product line that I think they were kind of just testing out. It wasn't the best helmet. It came in a lot of pieces. You kind of had to piece it together. But comparing that to the options that Ruby's was putting out at the time, and really not having a whole lot of options outside of that, it was very welcome to be on the scene. And since then, they've created a ton of helmets, some of which are some of my favorites. And if you have been following this channel for a while, or if you go back and look at my old videos, you will see that I am a huge fan of the Hasbro Black Series collection, because I think they create really nice helmets at a great value so that a lot of people can collect them and kind of fill those holes in their collections, or collect something like this, the Scout Trooper helmet, which is one of my favorite. Always been a Scout Trooper fan, and I even already have one in my collection that I'll show you guys later that I don't love. So I was really excited. This was my most anticipated helmet, but ever since they released the first photos, I've had my reservations about it. I've since seen it at Star Wars Celebration. Reservations were somewhat addressed, but still not the best. But let's go ahead and take a look at it here. We got it out of the box already. We have fairly minimal packaging in here. Hasbro has been doing their best to cut down on the amount of plastic that they include. So while there is still a decent amount of tape on here, we are down to tissue paper on this piece. The inside here, you have some packaging to keep it all nice and in there. This sort of little cutout type thing has been on there for a while, but otherwise this is sort of their new box that they've been using now actually for a few years, where they kind of have the cutout here on the side with a little bit of art, very similar to their Black Series figures. So again, I have nearly every Black Series helmet that they've made. One of my few that I'm not a big fan of is the Stormtrooper, but other than that, I've collected almost all of them, and certain ones, especially like the pilot helmets, I think are really good and are a great value and great for someone like myself who likes to buy things and customize them and make my own things out of them. So let's go ahead and get the tissue paper off of here. And voila. There we have it, already out and naked. Let's go ahead and take a look at what our other pieces are here. We have some paperwork. We have this little brochure that kind of tells you about the Scout Trooper helmet, a little bit about the inside of it, all that stuff, the straps and things of that nature. So, you know, not the easiest helmet in the world to make, and that is because it has a moving part here. I have a motorcycle. My wife's helmet actually is very similar to this, where it folds up like that. And, you know, it's a cool mechanism, but it is a whole new mechanism that they had to build into this type of thing. On the inside here, we have a lot of detail. It is all sort of imprinted in there. There isn't a lot of paint differences or anything like that, but it is nice that they've been adding all these things to it now for quite a while. This actually has a rubber pad here at the top that is made to look like the same texture as that there. That is kind of a nice, cool change. A lot of times in the past, they've had sort of the construction hat type mechanism inside, or on the Rebel pilot helmets, there's been some fabric pads which work well for that. You also have a lot of detail here on the front in this area. Lots of little pieces that are meant to look like little mechanisms. Maybe they change voices, maybe they filter things out, things of that nature. And we also have some Velcro pads here at the top, which are going to be for further additional padding. Let's go ahead and open that up here. So this is sort of the little additional pad then that you can then place inside the helmet here, and it's going to stick to the Velcro to provide that extra padding. And now that's in there, and that provides a little bit of extra cushion there for your head. One thing that I must have left in the box here is the chin strap, a crucial piece. The padding and things like that is sort of just there to make it a little bit more comfortable for the wearer. So there we go, we've got a nice chin strap on there. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the details around this. You have some nice venting back here in the back with some little notches in there. You can actually see through that, so I wouldn't be surprised if this one at least is actually the speaker for the electronics part. This one seems to be a little bit more closed in. You have this little bumpy ribby area here. You have these little gray dots on either side. Now sometimes when I see these more pronounced than what they've done it here, and you have these sort of like scoops on the side here, and that's sort of where this sort of moved up and down for you as well. One of the gripes that I've had about this piece since it was very first announced was that there is a lot of lining all over this piece. You have a line that starts down here and comes all the way up here and around the ear and up into there. These parts here, not bothered by it. This part, just not the best. I understand like how this has to go together, that is not an easy seam to hide, but it's still there, and it's still, I find it disappointing. And it's obviously not what's on the original helmets. When you come across the back of the helmet, you have a seam that runs all the way around the back here. You know, a seam in this area does have to be there. I'm not a complete Scout Trooper expert. I'm not really sure whether this part here should be all one piece or whether there is actually a deck attached to the helmet itself. I believe on the one that I've made, there is not a deck attached to the helmet itself. However, the mechanics on mine as far as moving it face up and down, I don't actually think it's functional on mine, so I can understand why it is maybe designed the way that it is there. The white shiny plastic is great. You have the appropriate graphic here on the side, so that part is all really good, and the actual face straight on is good. This is hard to get. I don't really know exactly why, but I've seen many of these where the eyes are too large, or the eyes are too small, or the face is too long, or it's too wide. There's something about this face that seems to be particularly difficult to sculpt correctly. You have a little bit of detail down in here. I think I will probably go in and at least add a little bit of weathering or a little bit of paint in here, because this does come across very much as gray plastic. The little mic piece here on the end, not bad overall, but it is not an actual speaker grill. There is solid black plastic right behind those little silver pieces, but honestly, that doesn't really bother me. I think that looks pretty good considering that most things are going to be at a slight distance. Straight on, really not a bad looking helmet. The seam lines here on the ears would probably be the biggest gripe I would have about this when you're looking at it straight on. When you're not looking at it straight on, this is where my actual biggest gripe is. This here, along with the chin strap, is this battery panel. And this battery panel snaps in here and goes across like this. And there's a little button here and all kinds of different things to help you eject that, and batteries are all hidden in here. But there is a significant panel line around this when it's installed, all the way around here. That is an unnecessary panel line. I don't understand why they do this. I don't understand why they did this on the Stormtrooper as well. I recognize it's on the back of the helmet. Most of us are gonna put our helmets facing like this on the shelf. You're never gonna see it. That's how mine's gonna be, and that's how I'm gonna learn to live with it. I just don't understand why you do this when you could be putting it on the inside. You could have a battery panel here on the inside. It's tucked away, no one ever sees it. This just kind of drives me nuts. I think their Stormtrooper helmets are slightly undersized and kind of a weird shape to begin with, but that battery panel being on the back has always really bothered me when it came to that. And as excited as I was about the Scout Trooper helmet coming out, when I saw these seam lines, I was like, oh, it's a little bit disappointing. But this part back here just really kind of breaks my heart to a certain extent. Again, I know I'm sounding really dramatic, but I work in design, and design is kind of about making something really functional, but also something that looks really good. And to me, this looks like such an easy thing to have fixed by just simply putting it on the inside. I could be wrong. Maybe the sales of this helmet are going to primarily children and they don't really care about something like that. But my guess is it's mostly going to collectors, people like myself, people like you watching this video here, and we care about things like this. So it's just kind of weird to put this on here. I think most of us would probably rather have no electronics inside of it whatsoever and have something like these panel lines here being gone and figuring out a better solution for that. I would gladly trade in the X amount of dollars that go into the electronics for a more perfect appearance. All right, collectors, well, if I didn't completely lose you during my little temper tantrum there, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the electronic features on here. I've gone ahead and installed the batteries in this one. It takes 3 AAA batteries, 2 on top, 1 below, 2 screws hold the battery panel in. Pretty easy overall, honestly. And then it is activated by a button that is on the inside here. For you guys and you guys only, I will adorn the helmet, and we will check out these voice modifying features. All right, let's make sure I don't hit the ceiling here. Okay, so this is the helmet on. I'm sure it looks spiffy. They do include a pad. That would probably be helpful. There's a real crazy echo happening right now because my voice is being picked up. And we'll close this down. And it does fit over my face. I don't know how much this is picking up my alternate voice. Go ahead and unclip this microphone.
And put it at the back here where the sound's actually coming out. It's relatively disappointing, honestly. It's not a particularly compelling sound.
But honestly, it's just sort of an echo generator. Does the Scout Trooper sound like that? Sorta. I guess, maybe. Again, for me, I would say skip the electronics and nail the sculpt and construction of it. In my experience, even as a kid, the electronic parts of most toys wasn't particularly the most exciting element of it. I don't leave batteries in any of my stuff because they corrode over time, so the likelihood that you're going to put batteries back in it again and use that feature are pretty low. The likelihood that you're going to see these seam lines here on the ears, pretty high. So you might be wondering why I picked up a helmet that I was sort of destined to not really like. And the answer kind of is this one here on the left. This is my current Scout Trooper helmet, which I probably got about 90% done before sort of stopping, just sort of discouraged with it. It was not a perfect mold in any way to begin with. I did my best to kind of make things fit together and work together, but it never quite reached where I felt like it was going to be good enough. And it sort of has just sat in this current state without the lenses and without some of the detail painting that needs to go on to it. Not perfect by any means, but you know, this is what some dude is doing in his garage when he has a few spare hours every once in a while, versus what a multi-million-dollar company with professional designers has done. And you know, by far this is better. Don't get me wrong, this is a much bigger, better improvement, and that's why I picked it up, because it is better than the current one that I have. But I do still wish that it was just a little bit more exact, because this could have been sort of a definitive piece for people. And that's to a certain extent kind of my point, that if the Scout Trooper is your trooper, if that is your main guy, that's what always been your favorite, this might not be the definitive one. I think that if you get the Black Series Luke Skywalker helmet, that's really pretty good. I don't know if you need to pay the De Novo numbers for it. I think the Hasbro one is pretty darn good. This one, you know, if that's your main guy, you might be better off going on Etsy or going on Facebook, finding someone who makes these helmets and maybe paying a little bit more. You know, it used to be back in the day, Black Series helmets were around 80 bucks and they kind of went up to 100 bucks. I think this guy was about $130 or so. So it's not nothing. And the reason I'm being so critical on it is because I have seen Hasbro deliver really amazing helmets in the past. And I also really care about you guys. And I know you guys work really hard for your money and that you get excited about stuff like this. I get excited about stuff like this. And I just want you to know that it's not perfect. And I want you to make sure that you're spending your money on things that you're really gonna love, because that's kind of what collecting's all about, is collecting things that you love. And I just kind of wanted to show you all the pros and cons of this helmet. What I'd love to see though, is Hasbro take this same helmet, and with Ahsoka just about a month away, I'd love to see them do the Rebels version of this helmet. And that may very well be what I end up doing with this helmet. I may sort of just go ahead and do all the taping and all that stuff and paint that wild, crazy Ezra paint job on it. And then maybe I won't notice some of the imperfections and fitment issues here and there. It'll just sort of be, you know, it's a little more battle worn because Ezra's had it and customized it and all those things. Final thoughts on this helmet. Good overall, just not as great as I've seen Hasbro do in the past. I knew kind of going into it that I was going to be disappointed by these seam lines, by this battery panel, and you know, the voice electronics part, not really doing it for me. Maybe some of you have kids who really love that part, but like I said, I think the market for these type of Black Series helmets has to at least skew at least partially, you know, towards us big grown-up men and women who collect these type of things. And for us, I wish they would have done maybe a little bit better job on some of these pieces, because this was one of the most anticipated helmets. For years, people were talking about, gosh, I really wish they make a Scout Trooper helmet, or you know, it'd be the top of their list of ones that they wanted. And they finally delivered it, and I just feel like we got so close, and maybe that's what it is. I'm just frustrated that we got so close and just in a couple key places here kind of missed the mark. So, you know, if this is what fits your budget and you're okay with the things that I outlined that are frustrating me, then by all means pick this helmet up. It has good solid construction. It's gonna look great on a shelf. I'm still looking forward to putting it on my shelf, but someday if another Scout Trooper comes up, I may make the upgrade to that piece, because this might not be the definitive Scout Trooper for me. Collectors, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you like and subscribe. Small things like that really help a small channel like my own. If you like things like this, you're gonna love the upcoming content that I have. Back here we have boxes from Sideshow, Hot Toys, we have lightsabers, we have helmets, all kinds of things. So if you like that type of thing, you're in the right place. Also make sure you're following us on Instagram, where we can interact a little bit more directly. I'm also sharing good deals and things like that that I find on there, as well as just fun things that I find throughout the day. And that's it for me. See ya.